The view. So we are leaving our hotel, the Nube Inn in the Nubian Village here in Aswan, and we are headed to our cruise ship for our 4-day Nile cruise that we are extremely excited about. And the breeze coming off of the Nile right now is just spectacular. This is something I told Darren I've literally dreamed of since I was a little kid. I mean, I don't even remember how many decades I've wanted to do this, and we are finally here in Egypt on the Nile. It's a little surreal and extremely exciting.
Yep, it's gonna be great.
Yeah, yay!
Enjoy.
GoPro's picking it up, but one of these cruise ships over here is ours. They're all lined up against the dock, and we're about to get to whichever one it is that we're taking. It's hard to tell. They all look very similar from afar. So exciting! Our beautiful room on the Movenpick MS Royal Lily Nile cruise ship. Just want to do a quick tour of our room, starting this way. The bedroom and the main space. This huge, beautiful bed that looks extremely comfortable, and I think it is. We've got a television with our channels list, a nice little space to get my makeup done in the morning. We have a nice little sitting area. I think that'd be great for tea, you know, during the day. We have this beautiful window, panoramic window. So when we're out on the Nile, we'll get to see everything going on around us. I can't wait to wake up in the morning and look out that and see how gorgeous everything is with that beautiful glow over the river. Then, coming this way, very nice gentleman just told us that this is where our safe is and where our refrigerator is. They did leave us some bottled water here. Our water is included with everything. We have stuff in case we need to get our laundry done, which is highly likely. We have nice hanging closet space with a couple bathrobes. And of course, some more storage space with some extra pillows in case we need that. And then we have our bathroom, which we have to watch our step when we go in, me in particular, because I'm extremely accident prone. So we've got our toilet, hair dryer, which you don't necessarily always get. Sometimes you have to ask for them. I found on this trip. Nice big basin sink, huge mirror, and a step-in tub shower combination with all the toiletries that we could possibly need and all of our towels for the shower hanging right behind us. So very, very similar to what you'd see on other cruise ships. This one's just, of course, a little bit smaller, and it's cruising a river rather than the sea or the ocean. And I think we're going to be extremely comfortable here. This is a really, really nice boat and a beautiful room. It's beautiful.
Excellent. Thank you.
Love it. Thank you so much. Thank you. Alright, so we just finished a delicious buffet style lunch. They are taking good care of me with my onion and garlic allergies. The chef here is going to make sure for every meal that I know exactly what I can eat. And we're about to meet up with our tour guide for our first tours in Aswan. Temple here in Egypt. We're in Aswan right now, and this is the Philae Temple. This temple was constructed in 250 BC through about 250 AD to honor the goddess Isis. She is the primary goddess that this temple was built for. However, there are several other gods that are represented and honored here. That includes Isis's husband, Osiris, and their son, Horus, which, of course, Isis was the goddess of love and magic here in Egypt, in ancient Egypt. Osiris was the god of the earth and the underworld. And then, of course, Horus was the god of protection. So this temple was designed to honor and pay tribute to goddess Isis. Now, this temple was actually at one point submerged in the Nile. And back in the 70s, the UNESCO group pulled the pieces of the temple apart from the middle of the Nile and moved it up on the bank here. They had to basically create a dam to get those pieces out of the water and reconstruct the temple as it was before up here on land to keep it protected. So you'll see around the temple there are these like black marks on the temple walls and columns. And that's all from the damage of the waters that occurred over decades and decades when the temple was submerged.
And these holes right here, that was a water line. Those were underwater at one point, and the ships coming through would actually go through this gap in the temple.
So what else is crazy is this temple is so well preserved. Coming from Athens, where we got to see ancient Greek ruins and how destructive things had been to really ruin a lot of those ancient landmarks. It's really, really fascinating to see how well preserved this temple is, considering all the different nations that at one point had rolled over Egypt, including the Ottomans, the British, the Romans, the ancient Greeks. It was in so many different people's hands, and they didn't destroy these important landmarks and these important temples, except for the Christians. When the Christians came into Egypt from Rome, they actually tried to convert some of these temples into churches, and you will see how some of these gods have been completely marked up. That is where the Christians chiseled away at those figures, because they believe, of course, that there's one God, Jesus is the Savior. They didn't believe in these gods, and they wanted to remove them from these temples. So we're back from our first day of excursions here in Aswan. Our Egyptologist came to the boat to meet us after we had lunch and took us around town. The first place we went was the unfinished obelisk, and I had no idea what an obelisk is. I'm assuming most people probably don't know. Basically what an obelisk is, it's this big block of stone that's shaped like either a needle or a candle, and I think that was a really good way to describe it. And it was placed outside of temples so people could find where the different temples were.
I'll put a picture up because they're pretty prevalent in the Egyptian, ruins or Egyptian culture from thousands of years ago.
Exactly. It was built during the era of Queen Hatshepsut, and it's believed that this particular obelisk, had it been able to be moved, was intended to be placed at the Karnak Temple, which is of course one of the most famous temples in all of Egypt. But it had to be an unfinished project. They had to leave it as it is. This is one of the biggest obelisks in the entire world. So the unfinished obelisk is estimated to weigh about 1,200 tons. This thing is massive.
Yeah, and also the length is about 42 meters, so it's extremely long.
It's a really, really big piece of granite, and it's very interesting to see, and it's very cool that they left everything, and including the little channels that they built to like dig it out. They left everything just as it was. So I mean, it's been sitting there for a very long time, untouched. And its position as it was when it was first unearthed. So that was our very first stop, and that was really cool. After that, we went to the most renowned temples in Egypt, which is the Philae Temple. So after our time at the ruins, we ended up going to a couple of places that our guide called factories. It was very, very cool. The first one was a perfume and oil factory. They make perfumes, oils, and essence. Everything is pure ingredients. They don't mix any chemicals into it. And we were able to see how they, first of all, blew Pyrex into the beautiful containers that the oils and essences would be poured into. That was very cool to watch the gentleman blow that Pyrex. It's kind of similar to glass blowing, but a little bit different because of the properties of the Pyrex.
So the one question I asked them, because when the Pyrex cools down, it's in the open air, it doesn't crack or shatter. It's different than glass in that effect. So if you are blowing glass and you sit there and let it cool, it just shatters instantly. So that's something interesting about the Pyrex. And that's why they utilize the Pyrex. It's just a better property for the essence and the different perfumes.
All right, so now our excursions are done for today. We get to just enjoy the rest of our evening on the boat, starting with a cocktail time. They have a little cocktail hour for us before dinner, and we're gonna go check that out now at the bar. Setup. We came in and the bar has all the drinks already made, different varieties, each of them really pretty. I got one that's like a mango rum, which is festive.
And I got a whiskey sour.
Yeah.
Cheers to you, Granddad.
Yeah, oh. Yeah, but it's very, very cool. All right, cheers. They also do have non-alcoholic beverages for those that wish to have a non-alcoholic beverage. So really nice that they're doing that here.
Time to see the pool deck, which is the rooftop. Be strategic.
About right here?
Very nice. In about an hour and a half, we start moving, so we'll film that, of course.
Yeah, we're super excited this morning. We decided not to do the add-on day trip to Abu Simbel. We really want to go to Abu Simbel, but it's like 3 hours to get there, 3 hours to get back. We would have had to leave at 4:30 this morning, and honestly, after all the travel and the long days, we just decided that we were going to come back to do Abu Simbel at another time. So we relaxed, had breakfast, went to the gym. There's a teeny little gym on the boat, but we were able to get a decent workout in and got cleaned up, and now we're going to lounge at the pool and enjoy watching the boat take off and finally have our cruise get started. So Very excited for what this afternoon has in store. And we are making a stop in just a little bit, our very first stop of the cruise, which I'm really excited about. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah. We'll let you know.
All right, so we are officially cruising.
The boat is actually moving.
That's right. We've been waiting for this for like 24 hours. And we're so excited. We're finally on our way to Kamombu Temple in the town of the same name. So we've got, I think, about an hour and a half ride ahead of us today to get to where we need to go. And then our guide is actually on the boat, and he is going to take us on a tour around the temple.
Yep. And it'll be a brisk 98 degrees.
Yeah, it's toasty.
It's warm, but there's a nice breeze. We're on the top deck, of course, and there's a nice breeze coming across, so it's making it bearable up here. And we're, of course, in the shade. But once we get out and start walking around the ruins, it's going to be very hot.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday was pretty hot. We were just like standing there, and even though it's not humid here, like I just had sweat dripping down everywhere. It was just, yeah, I mean, you know, we came from like, what, 40 something degrees, 50 degrees in Cape Town to mid to upper 90s here in Aswan. So it's been a little shock to our system for sure, but it's absolutely worth it. I mean, what a cool and unique experience. And again, totally something I've been just dreaming of my whole life. And the fact that I'm finally on a Nile cruise is a little surreal to me. I think that's so cool that we get to do this.
Yes, I'm just hoping to see some crocodiles. I want to see some crocodiles.
Okay, well, maybe we will. Who knows? He saw baby ones in Zimbabwe. They were like this big, you know?
My hands
so
can't
small.
stretch out far enough to show you how big they were. They're enormous.
They were so
While
small.
I was swimming in
So
the
small.
Zambezi. So I can say I swam with crocs in the Zambezi.
He did, with really tiny ones. So maybe we'll see huge ones here. Although we saw massive crocodiles in Tanzania.
Yeah,
Massive.
they
Those things
up
were
upwards of 6 meters or more. They were enormous.
They were massive. Those poor wildebeest. I wouldn't cross the river either. I'd just stay where I was. We just had a lovely afternoon cruising down the Nile. It was so nice upstairs. We had some very comfy seats to sit in on the top deck and just got to go back and forth from one side of the boat to the other to get some really, really cool video and some cool shots of the bank, the east and west bank of the Nile. And then we were called down for tea time. So we came back down to the lounge slash bar on the boat and are enjoying some complimentary tea and biscuits and some absolutely delicious lime mint juice. It's so good. I could just drink a vat of that and be happy. It's really nice. I don't turn down tea time and biscuits. We have just a short bit before we get to Kamombo to do our excursion to the temple there. So we're just going to enjoy a little more downtime before we go back out into the heat.
So the way this works is we're docking up next to this other river boat, and we're gonna have to walk through, you know, down to our lobby and then walk across through their lobby to get to the dock onto our excursion. Kind of funny.
Welcome to the Kamambo Temple here in Egypt. This temple is actually very, very cool. It was split between two different gods. First, it was built to honor the god, the crocodile god, Sobek. And the other side of the temple honors Sobek's father, Horus. This temple is absolutely unbelievably cool. It's so much more well preserved even than the one that was in Philae Temple that was in Aswan. Not in terms of the temple itself necessarily, but all of the engravings in the temple and the components to it, it hadn't been damaged by humans the way that the one at Philae Temple had been. The only damage from this temple really came from, there was an earthquake that ended up crumbling a bunch of the pieces of the temple. Two different empires actually helped put this temple back together. That was the Greeks and the Romans. They saw a need to bring back the ability to honor these gods, and they took the pieces that they were able to find and they reconstructed this temple. And just a really fun little fact that most people probably don't know, the word Kamambo means mountain of gold. So we learned that today as well. It's a really, really cool temple to visit, and I'm super excited that we got a chance to see it. It's unbelievably beautiful. One other really neat thing about this temple that we noticed was that there is some of the paint still on pieces of it that is original paint. This is not something that was repainted or reconstructed at any point in time. So you actually do have some of those beautiful colors that the ancient Egyptians used to create this temple and all of its glory. We're back from Kamambo Temple. There were a few things that I forgot to mention just because we were a little pressed for time, and so I just kind of forgot some of the things that I thought we would want to mention in terms of what this temple signifies. So we talked about how it was originally built to honor the god Sobek. Basically, how that came to be is that these crocodiles in the Nile were able to get into sacred waters, and so they basically decided to honor the crocodile as a god, and Sobek became that god. He also was connected to the god of healing. So because of the fact that the crocodile was able to survive in these sacred waters. So each temple has a specific purpose for why people go to visit it. Like, we went to Philae Temple yesterday, and people go to Philae to worship the goddess Isis because she's the goddess of love and magic. So if they needed love or they needed magic, they would go and give offerings to Isis to try to get help in those areas. People go to this temple, to Kamambo, basically when they're sick. A lot of people that were ill during those times would go to the Kamambo Temple to be granted the opportunity to be healed. And it's really cool because in the temple, there's actually a section where they're telling the story of why the temple is there and what the god was important for. And you can actually see the little surgical tools that they used. And they also used a calendar. And so they had engraved in the temple the different calendar for the 365 days in the year.
Yes, and also upon excavation of this site, they did find surgical tools on site, so that's pretty fascinating as well.
Yeah, and they found mummified crocodiles, which we actually got to see in the little crocodile museum just outside the temple. So thoroughly enjoyed our experience at Kamambo Temple. So again, if you're planning on doing a Nile River cruise, you will not be disappointed with these temples because each of them is really special and unique and has a different story behind it, and we're just loving what we're learning and getting to see because these temples are really incredible.
Yes, and just on a personal note, when you come here, just have the understanding that the street vendors and sellers are extremely aggressive. So, you know, they're from little kids to adults, and they don't hear no. So just be aware.
Yeah, the best advice that we've been given and that we'll give you is just pretty much ignore them. You know, if you engage, they just want to, you know, keep pushing and pushing. They're very, very sweet, but they're all trying to make money, and we just had to kind of ignore them at one point. So that's the best piece of advice we can give there, I think.
Yep. Other than that, it was a great day.
It was an amazing day, and again, you know, we understand people have to feed themselves, have to feed their families, so we get it. But you know, we just didn't wish to buy anything today. So.